Hello everyone and welcome to Module 3. This week, as well as last week, kind of go hand in hand. So this week we're focusing on otology, or the study of the ears, also known as audiology, depending on where you are working and what sort of testing that you are doing. So with that knowledge, eyes and ears kind of do go hand in hand. So that's why I said that at the beginning of this video. Now for this video, we're only focused on one chapter and just a few short pages in that one chapter. So we're looking at chapter 39, which is pages 895 to 902. So it's kind of the second half of what you were to read for last week, because you also had chapter 39 for that week. So let's go ahead and dive right into what chapter 39 is all about, and that is otology, or audiology, depending on where you're at, and again, who you're working with. But either way, this is where the providers are working and specializing in the study of the ears. They're either called otologists or audiologists, again, depending on what they're doing. The ear is obviously the main organ of hearing, but it's also good for balance. Most parts of the ear are internal and are protected by the temporal bone of the skull. The instrument that is used for ear exams is called an otoscope, but we also have tuning forks and odometers. An otoscope is a lighted instrument that is used to examine the tympanic membrane. A tuning fork is a metal fork-shaped instrument that produces a vibration when struck. The vibrating instrument is then held near the patient's ear or placed on the head to give a rough hearing assessment. Again, we're looking at, can they hear that kind of like that ringing sound or that vibration tone. An odometer is an electronic instrument that measures more frequency, or the number of fluctuations per second of energy in the form of sound waves. When the patient indicates their ability to hear a sound, it's recorded on their audiogram. So now that we kind of have an understanding of a hearing test, there are a few more items that we need to talk about that medical assistants are responsible for. Those can be things such as ear irrigations or ear installations. But before we get to that point, I want to talk about some of the documentation that is important for you to know as a medical assistant. So there are some abbreviations that we do use, just like we did for the eyes. They are AD, AS, and AU. So you can always tell the difference because A is for audio, audio is ear. O is for ophthalmology, ophthalmology is eye. So that's kind of how you can tell the difference in those abbreviations. But AD stands for right ear, AS stands for left ear, and AU is for both ears. Now, another thing that is important to know is when medications are prescribed, if you see the term otic on the medication bottle, it is for the ears only. But if you see that a medication is prescribed and it says ophthalmic, that could be either an eye or an ear medication. So please make sure that you're paying very close attention to that. And also, when you're working with your patients, you do give them that information. It's important for them to know that if they get a medication that is supposed to be prescribed for their eyes and it says otic, that can cause a lot of problems for their eyes. It can actually cause a lot of damage for their eyes. So they want to make sure that they read the bottles prior to putting anything either in their eyes or in their ears. All right, so let's talk about ear irrigations. So these are necessary to remove any impacted wax in an ear or any foreign object that isn't supposed to be there. A few years ago, I actually saw an article about a child who stuck a pencil in his ear because he didn't want to lose it. And it really was just kind of like the nub of the pencil and the eraser piece. So it was very tiny, and it had actually gotten kind of stuck and impacted in there because of his earwax. So they had to do an ear irrigation to kind of remove that pencil. So kids are very prone to putting things in places that they don't belong. Their ears and their nose are two of the big places. So it's not just for earwax removals, it's for foreign body removals as well. What you'll want to do is use warm water with a syringe to insert this into the patient's ear. And you can also use some hydrogen peroxide as well that can kind of help break up the earwax depending on the thickness of it. You'll need to have access to the patient's ear canal, and this can be done by pulling on the ear. So for your patients that are 3 years and younger, you'll want to pull the earlobe down and to the back. But if they are an adult through, or 3 years old through adult, you want to pull the earlobe up and to the back. This actually opens up that ear canal so you can see into the ear and down to hopefully the tympanic membrane. We also deal with ear installations, which is actually putting in ear medications. So when you have to do this, what you're essentially doing is instructing the patient how to add ear drops to their ears. Very much so like we talked about when you were learning how to put in eye medications. It's the same kind of concept. You're teaching them how to use ear medications. So what you'll do is you'll have the patient tilt their head away from the affected ear. So the ear that is really the problem will be up on the top as opposed to on the bottom when it was with the eyes. Again, you will need to pull the earlobe to access that ear canal because you want to make sure that the medication is getting into the ear canal, not just the outer part of the ear that you can see. You really want to avoid touching the dropper to the actual ear. This is really important because the ear is already infected. So if you touch that dropper to their ear, the medication that's going in is now being contaminated, and we don't want that. So try to hold it about, I would say, 1/2 inch to 1 inch above the ear canal, so that way you are not infecting the bottle. And you want to place the appropriate amount of drops into the ear canal that was ordered by the provider. Once that is done, what you want to do is actually kind of rub the outside of the ear to make sure that the medication not only gets to where it needs to go, but that it actually formulates all around. So like with the eye medications, when you put that in, you had the patient blink a few times to kind of rotate that medication around. Well, we can't do that with your ears. So what you want to do is kind of just rub the outside of the ear to kind of move that medication around. And what's really important for this is that the patient actually stays in that kind of like laying position for about 3 to 5 minutes. And the reason we say that is because patients can get lightheaded or kind of dizzy if they kind of just pull their head back up and that medication's in there. It's kind of like when you go swimming and you get water in your ears, it kind of takes a minute for your balance to come back. It's the same kind of process here. All right, so that is kind of all that I have for this week. What I want to do is just take a few minutes and talk about what we have for homework this week. So as I've always said, and as I'll keep repeating every week, please make sure that you read those few chapter pages that you do have. It kind of goes into much more detail than obviously I have here in the video, but it also helps with your lab class as well as your quiz and discussion board. So for this week, you do have one discussion board, and it's focused on hearing impairments. So you will need to discuss whether people with hearing impairments can compete and work in technical or scientific fields. You'll need to explain why you feel this way, so either why they can or why they cannot. And you need to explain some of the challenges that those with hearing impairments may face, and what are some resources that can help them if they're needed within those fields. It's very important, it's within those fields, okay? Your initial discussion post will be due Tuesday, October 17th by midnight, and you'll need to reply to at least one classmate no later than Sunday, October 21st by midnight. Now, you do have a quiz this week, and as I've said a few times in here, ears and eyes go hand in hand. So your quiz this week is over both modules 2 and 3, so both eyes and ears. It will consist of 10 multiple choice questions, and you do have a 10-minute time limit. So please make sure that you give yourself the time that you need. Study before you go in, read your chapter pages, watch my videos, make some notes, and you should be good to go. All right, guys, so that's all I have for Module 3. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please make sure that you're reaching out to me either via email through course messaging in Blackboard or giving me a call at my direct line to the Rockford campus, which you can find on your course homepage in the top right-hand corner next to my photo. I hope that you all have a wonderful Module 3 and have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.